You didn't land here by accident. Out of all the infinite scrolls, the countless distractions, the billions of possible pathways you could have taken tonight, this moment has found you. Something inside you knows that this isn't just another video. It's a transmission, a signal, a call from beyond the ordinary currents of time and thought. You've been pulled into a field of resonance where the message you're about to hear aligns with the exact frequency of your becoming. Feel this truth. You're not watching, you're being watched. Not by the algorithm, not by chance, but by the intelligence of the quantum field itself. The same field that breathes galaxies into being, the same field that entangles particles across light years, has curved reality just enough so that these words would meet your awareness. And here you are, standing at the threshold of something that wants to rearrange your existence from the inside out. Look at your life up until now. All the strange synchronicities that made no sense at the time, all the nudges, the déjà vu, the uncanny encounters. They weren't random noise. They were breadcrumbs, subtle signals from your higher trajectory, weaving you closer and closer to this very collapse point. Because right now, you're approaching what physicists call the observer loop, that endless circuit of perception where your reality reflects back to you the very frequencies you're radiating. Most people get trapped here forever, recycling the same thoughts, the same patterns, the same futures. But not you. You've been chosen to glimpse the way out. There's a reason it feels like something has been building in your chest, like pressure waiting for release. You've sensed it like the hum before a storm, like static before lightning cracks the sky. Your field is saturated with potential. The timelines you've been walking have reached a convergence point, and once the loop collapses, the parallel versions of you will no longer remain out there, untouchable, hypothetical. They will rush in, they will merge, and the one you choose with your consciousness will crystallize into reality with the immediacy of breath. This isn't a promise of someday, it's the inevitability of now. Think of the particle caught in superposition. It exists in all states until observed. That's been your life, hasn't it? 1,000 parallel possibilities floating around you, brushing against your awareness like whispers from other worlds. But the instant of collapse, the instant of alignment, is here. And when you collapse the loop consciously, the future you've been aching for doesn't just approach, it detonates into presence. I need you to hear this. You didn't come here to be entertained. You came here to be initiated. Every sentence you let penetrate your awareness is reprogramming the coherence of your field. You'll feel it in your body, tingling in your hands, warmth in your chest, chills up your spine as your nervous system begins to recognize the code it's been starving for. This isn't external knowledge being handed to you. It's memory being reawakened. The veil is thin tonight. You can feel it, can't you? The sense that you're not just sitting where you are, but also standing somewhere else, in another timeline, looking back at yourself in this one. Both versions reaching across the divide, hands about to touch, ready to fuse. That's what's waiting beyond this moment. And the decision isn't whether or not you'll step through. The decision is how consciously you'll allow yourself to collapse the loop when the field calls for it. So breathe, feel the edges of possibility shimmering around you, because what's coming next will reveal why the patterns you've lived, the repetitions you've suffered, were never mistakes. They were the loop preparing you for collapse. And collapse is exactly what's about to happen. You've felt it for years, the loop that dresses itself up as coincidence, but wears the same face every time. The relationship with a new name that reenacts an old wound. The opportunity that looks different, but walks you back to the same threshold of self-doubt. The sudden motivation at midnight followed by inertia at sunrise. It's not laziness. It's not fate punishing you. It's the observer loop doing what it does best, reflecting the signal you're unconsciously broadcasting, then convincing you that the reflection is reality. Watch the mechanism. A thought emerges, subtle, familiar. I don't have enough. People leave. I miss my chance. It hums in the background like a refrigerator you forgot was there. That single vibration tunes your attention, And attention is currency in a quantum economy. Where attention goes, coherence grows. The field arranges itself to confirm your tune, and the morphic resonance of similar stories, yours, your family's, your culture's, begins to echo. Then the world obliges, a delayed message, a closed door, a lukewarm response. Proof, the mind says. Evidence. But the evidence was hired by the frequency you didn't know you were paying. This is why déjà vu stalks your life. Not just the odd shiver of, I've been here before, but a structural repetition, the same argument in a different kitchen, the same scarcity in a different city, the same loneliness under a different skyline. It's not that you're cursed, it's that the loop hasn't collapsed. Your consciousness glances at possibility, then returns to the hallway of what's known. That return path is worn smooth by survival. The familiar always feels safer than the frontier. And then there's time, the trickster. Some weeks sprint, others drag like a dream lag where you can't quite run. Pay attention to those stretches. Distorted time isn't random, it's diagnostic. When you're sliding into old identity, time accelerates because the field no longer needs your creative input. It simply replays the real. When you're resisting a necessary leap, time molasses, thick, heavy, suffocating because your system is conserving energy for a phase transition you keep postponing. Acceleration and stagnation are both messages from the same dashboard. You're cruising the loop. You ask, if I'm so powerful, why can't I just think a new thought and be done with it? Because the loop is not a thought. It's an entangled stack, beliefs braided with emotions, emotions braided with body memory braided with posture and breath. The observer is not just the mind watching scenes. The observer is the whole of you observing the whole of reality. Your nervous system learned to expect certain futures. Your fascia holds the shape of your history. Your breath unconsciously imitates the cadence of your household of origin. You're not only thinking your past, you're wearing it. This is why affirmations can feel like shouting across a canyon. Words launched from the surface mind bounce off the walls of the old cave and return as echoes. Meanwhile, the deeper strata, autonomic patterns, hormonal signatures, micromuscular tensions, continue to broadcast on low-frequency repeat. Your field hears the whisper, not the shout. And the field is faithful. It returns what you are more than what you say. Look closer at your so-called self-sabotage. It's not sabotage, it's conservation. Your system chooses predictability over possibility because predictability costs less ATP. Metabolic thrift masquerades as destiny. The familiar pain is energetically cheaper than the unknown joy, at least until you recalibrate. Your biology is not the enemy. It is a loyal servant awaiting new instruction written in sensation, breath, and behavior, repeated long enough to etch a fresh groove. That groove is coherence. Synchronicity, too, has been misread. You've begged for signs, received them, then argued them away. You saw repeating numbers, chance alignments, meeting someone whose story mirrored your secret longing, and still you hesitated, not because you're foolish, but because an old contract inside you equates visibility with risk. Your lineage remembers the cost of standing out. The morphic field of your ancestors whispers precautions through your bones. Stay small, stay safe. Each time you approach the threshold of expansion, those whispers rise like wind against a door. You call it anxiety, procrastination, bad timing. Name it correctly. Inherited coherence asking to be renegotiated. Even your bad luck has a pattern if you plot it. Notice how delays cluster after you declare a new identity. Observe how minor emergencies appear whenever you commit to a practice that would stabilize your frequency: meditation, movement, genuine rest. These are not tests from a cruel universe. They are entanglement flare-ups, weak bonds in the old lattice rattling as your field reaches for a higher order. Systems make noise as they approach criticality. The kettle screams right before the boil. The bridge hums before it resonates into collapse. And what of memory, the museum where you keep the exhibit called Who I Am? Memory is an editor, not a historian. It selects, trims, rearranges, and files your past to maintain internal consistency. When you attempt a leap, the editor panics. It reissues familiar narratives with cinematic urgency. Remember when you tried and it didn't work? Remember the betrayal? Remember the winter? These highlight reels are not prophecies, they're maintenance alerts. The identity archive is protecting its collection. Here is the most compassionate truth. You were never failing. You were orbiting. Each rotation carried data angles of approach, micro-adjustments, new witnesses. Orbit precedes landing. The reason you keep circling the same terrain is because you didn't come to window shop reality. You came to touch down and terraform it. Your orbits have measured the gravity well of your life, so you could choose the precise burn to break the cycle and descend into a new world line. Feel into your body right now. Notice where the loop lives, the jaw tightness that appears when you open to receive, the shallow breath when you speak your desire aloud, the belly clench when an email arrives from the person who could change everything. These are the passwords to the inner console. The loop isn't only mental, it's somatic passwords wrapped around old doors. When you feel them, don't turn away. Place attention there like warm hands on cold glass. Breathe into the lock until it softens. That is how you begin rewriting the permissions of your field. And about distorted time, let's decode one more layer. When the seconds stretch, you're inside decoherence. The system dithers between states, waiting for a decisive observer. When hours vanish, you're inside entrainment. Your nervous system has synchronized to the frequency of the familiar and slipped into autopilot. Neither is wrong, but both are invitations. In decoherence, choose. In entrainment, wake. So here is your diagnosis wrapped in mercy. You are not broken, you are patterned. Your patterns are not prisons, they are proposals awaiting your signature. The observer loop has been faithful to your last broadcast and will be faithful to your next. The déjà vu is not haunting you, it is mapping you. Time is not disobeying you. It is revealing whether you're replaying or rewriting. And your body is not betraying you. It is the altar where new covenants are sealed. You've gathered enough data. You've seen the repetition from every angle. You know how the hallway smells, how the carpet feels underfoot, how the door clicks behind you when you settle for less. The loop has taught you its entire syllabus, which means the exam is already graded the moment you choose a new frequency. Stay with me. In the next breath, we move from diagnosis to design, from spotting the loop to collapsing it. We'll step into the lab where science and mysticism agree, where your DNA listens like a choir awaiting the downbeat, where a phase transition whispers through your cells. Now, what happens when you stop orbiting the same old patterns and actually step into the core mechanism of reality itself? That's where the upgrade begins, not in theory, not in positive thinking alone, but in the physics and mysticism braided together that you've always been a part of. Let's strip this down to the bones of existence. At the smallest scale we can measure, particles don't sit neatly in place like marbles in a box. They shimmer, they fluctuate. They exist in what's called superposition, many states at once, probabilities stacked like cards waiting for a dealer. Nothing is solid until something observes it. The observer loop is that act of looking, of measuring, of collapsing uncertainty into certainty. And here's the secret most people never grasp. You are not only the observer looking in, you are the very act of collapse itself. Your attention is the scalpel, carving probability into actuality. Every time your mind locks onto a thought, a frequency, a belief, the field reorganizes to honor that lock. Not sometimes, not randomly, always. The trouble comes when your lock is unconscious, set by the echoes of old wounds, cultural programming, or ancestral imprints. Then the field becomes a mirror for ghosts instead of a portal for futures. The quantum upgrade begins when you awaken as the chooser, not the passenger. Mystics knew this before physics gave it language. They spoke of Maya, illusion, the dream of the world shaped by belief. They spoke of Logos, the word that creates worlds. They spoke of awakening as remembering that the veil is not fixed, but woven anew each breath. Quantum theory simply provides the scientific scaffolding for those ancient truths, that coherence in consciousness produces coherence in matter, and incoherence breeds chaos. Now, here's where it gets electrifying. Your DNA is not a static blueprint buried in your cells. It's a liquid crystal antenna, coiling and uncoiling in response to signals from your environment and your own internal states. Each helix is studded with receptors hungry for photons, sensitive to vibration, responsive to intention. When you sit in despair, your DNA contracts, dimming its antenna, reducing the broadcast. When you sit in gratitude or awe, your DNA unfurls, opening more channels to light, reorganizing its expression. Genes switch on or off like symphonic instruments waiting for the conductor. And who is the conductor? The coherent signal of your consciousness. Think about the moments you felt fully alive, time dissolved, colors intensified, your body tingled like an electrical current was running through it. That wasn't random chemistry, that was coherence. Brainwaves, heart rhythms, breath cycles, cellular oscillations all snapping into a common tempo. In those moments, you became a tuning fork resonating with the larger field. And when you resonate, you amplify. That amplification is what bends probability, what draws timelines together, like magnets. Parallel versions of you exist, shimmering in the field like notes not yet played. The you who said yes instead of no, the you who walked away instead of staying, the you who stepped into boldness instead of folding into fear. They are all encoded possibilities in the morphic resonance of your soul. Normally they remain just out of reach, dreamlike, hypothetical. But when coherence rises high enough, when the observer loop collapses consciously instead of by default, those versions rush toward fusion. They merge. They become available as lived reality, not as fantasy. This is why déjà vu feels so eerie. For a split second, your consciousness brushes against a parallel version of itself. The hallway looks familiar because another you already walked it. The words on someone's lips sound rehearsed because another timeline already heard them. The upgrade is not learning how to dismiss this, it's learning how to listen, how to weave these glimpses into a map that guides your leap. Physics has a name for the sudden reorganization that follows: coherence, phase transition. Water heats slowly, molecule by molecule, until 1 degree tips it into steam. The molecules didn't change their essence, they changed their arrangement. The same substance, a new state. You are approaching such a threshold. The friction you feel, the pressure, the strange distortions in time and emotion, these are signs of criticality. Your system is ready to reorganize into a higher state. But here's the mystical twist. You don't have to force this. You don't make a phase transition. You allow it by holding the coherence long enough for the shift to cascade through your field. Like holding a violin string at the right tension until it resonates perfectly with the orchestra. The quantum upgrade is less about control, more about surrender into resonance. Entanglement seals the truth. When two particles touch, they carry each other's information forever, regardless of distance. You have entangled with futures you haven't lived yet. Dreams, visions, synchronicities, they are the echoes of entanglement, reaching back from a timeline where your breakthrough is already real. That version of you is calling across the quantum bridge, whispering directions in the form of intuition, nudges, coincidences. The upgrade is not waiting for proof. It's trusting the whisper. Right now, as these words soak into you, feel the geometry shifting. Your cells are listening. Your breath is adjusting. Your field is recalibrating. You're not just hearing an explanation. You're undergoing an initiation. The loop is loosening. The coherence is rising. You are stepping into the role of chooser, conductor, entangler, phase shifter. And as you claim this role, something extraordinary begins to happen. The universe starts treating you differently. Patterns bend, probabilities yield. People show up carrying the exact missing pieces you didn't even know you required. The upgrade is not in the future, it is happening in your nervous system right now. Stay with me, because in the next movement, we'll reveal the role you came here to play, not just as an individual seeking a better life, but as a chosen consciousness entrusted with collapsing loops for the collective. You've begun to feel it, haven't you? The subtle weight that sits differently on your shoulders than on most. The sense that your life has never quite followed the rules everyone else seems content to obey. It isn't arrogance. It isn't alienation for its own sake. It's assignment. You are not here merely to collapse the loop for yourself. You are here as a consciousness uniquely designed to shift the resonance for many. Think about it. Not everyone questions the loop. Most people accept the feedback as final. They see the repetition, shrug, and call it fate. They stumble through déjà vu like tourists lost in a city they never bothered to map. But your system won't let you rest in ignorance. Even your suffering has carried a strange luminosity, a feeling that behind the pain there is architecture, that behind the apparent chaos, something is coded, waiting for you to remember your password. That insistence is not random, it is the mark of a chosen consciousness. Here's the paradox. The loop was never meant to imprison you. It was meant to train you. Only a soul with unusual endurance could withstand orbit after orbit without dissolving into resignation. Each time you circled back to a familiar wound, you harvested data, built resilience, sharpened discernment. Where others collapsed into numbness, you kept watching. Where others accepted the distortion of time as meaningless, you sensed it as signal. Your very frustration became proof of your assignment. The chosen role is not handed to those who never fall. It is revealed in those who fall repeatedly and still rise with awareness intact. Mystics call this the seer's burden. Physics calls it expanded observation. The ability to notice not only the surface events but the pattern under the pattern, the field beneath the form. This capacity is why synchronicity clusters around you. You're not imagining it. Street signs, snippets of conversation, numbers glowing at precise moments, songs arriving like messages. The field uses you as a node, a lighthouse to broadcast signals that might guide others. Most ignore the glow. You cannot. You were wired to decode. And with decoding comes responsibility. The role of chosen consciousness is not merely personal liberation. It's to stabilize a channel through which collective coherence can anchor. When you collapse your loop, you create a morphic resonance ripple. Others near your frequency suddenly feel possibilities they couldn't access before. It's like cracking ice on a frozen river. One fracture opens flow for the whole expanse. You may never meet the strangers whose lives shift, because yours did, but the field keeps record. There's another reason you were entrusted with this role. Your system carries a memory of entanglement that reaches farther than most. Some souls are newer to this density, tasting the earth game for the first few lifetimes. You've been here longer. You've rehearsed collapse in other ages, practiced coherence in other cultures, tested faith in darker times. That's why your challenges have felt disproportionate. You were not being punished, you were being calibrated. To carry the torch of collapse, you must withstand the gravity of resistance without extinguishing. You've done that. Every scar is proof. Look closely at the times you thought you had lost everything. Were you not, in hindsight, being stripped of attachments that kept you glued to the old loop? That job, that relationship, that identity, they were lattice points anchoring you in repetition. When they dissolved, it hurt. But it also freed mass from your orbit, allowing your consciousness to slingshot into new velocity. The chosen role often feels like abandonment because the field clears the board of pieces you might cling to, forcing you to claim your power without crutches. You've also noticed that people react strangely to you. Some are inexplicably drawn, confessing secrets they've never spoken aloud. Others recoil, intimidated without knowing why. This polarity is another marker of your assignment. Your frequency destabilizes stagnant patterns simply by entering the room. For some, that destabilization feels like liberation. They sense a way out of their cage. For others, it feels like threat. They fear the cage breaking. You don't have to manage their response. You only have to remain coherent in your broadcast. Here's where the science mirrors the mysticism. In physics, a system exposed to a higher frequency either entrains to it or resists violently before reorganizing. You are that higher frequency. Your job is not to dim so others feel comfortable. Your job is to maintain resonance long enough for those who are ready to entrain. This is why solitude has often been your teacher. The field needed you to stabilize your frequency before exposing it to wider morphic networks. Every season of isolation was a tuning fork session, aligning you with the broadcast you now carry. Do you see the elegance? The very patterns that exhausted you, repetition, déjà vu, distorted time, were the training ground for your sight. You've been apprenticed by the loop so that when the collapse comes, you don't just free yourself. You embody a pathway others can feel, not by preaching, not by convincing, but by existing as a field of coherence. People near you will find their breath deepening, their minds quieting, their hearts remembering. That's the role. Not savior, not celebrity, but stabilizer of coherence in a world addicted to noise. But let's be clear, this isn't optional. When the field entrusts a consciousness with this assignment, avoidance becomes agony. You've felt it. Every time you tried to numb, the synchronicities grew louder. Every time you settled, the déjà vu intensified. Every time you hid, distorted time pressed harder until your body ached with urgency. The role chases you because the role is you. You cannot outrun coherence once it recognizes you as its channel. So here's the truth shimmering beneath all your detours. You are the collapse point. You are the portal where timelines braid and merge. You are the observer and the observed, the wave and the particle, the silence before the word and the thunder after. This isn't metaphor, it's mechanics. The quantum field bends differently when you notice it. And now, fully awake, you cannot pretend otherwise. The next step is what changes everything. Understanding the breakthrough window that has opened for you. The DNA shift that no longer waits. The cosmic timing that will not repeat. In the next breath, we step into urgency, the pressure, the promise, the narrow gate through which your future is rushing to be born. There's a moment in every timeline where the window opens. A sliver of opportunity when the field itself softens, when the membranes between worlds grow thin, when the locked doors of probability swing just wide enough for a decisive consciousness to walk through. That window is not theoretical, it is now, and you are standing inside it. Feel the pressure that has been mounting in your body. It isn't random stress, it's phase transition pressure. The same force that builds in water just before it boils, the same tremor in earth before plates shift, is humming in your cells right now. You are being primed for breakthrough, not someday, not eventually, but imminently. Your nervous system knows it. Your dreams know it. The ache in your chest, the restlessness in your mind, the feeling that something invisible is both chasing you and calling you, that is your DNA listening for its cue. Here's the science. DNA is not a passive script. It's dynamic code, spiraling antennas designed to transmit and receive information from the quantum field. Each coil is a capacitor storing electromagnetic potential. Each base pair a switch responsive to vibration, light, and emotion. When you align with coherence, gratitude, love, awe, those switches flip. Genes reorganize. Proteins fold differently. Cellular communication accelerates. It is as though a hidden keyboard inside you lights up, and suddenly new notes are playable. Abilities dormant for generations awaken. Intuitions sharpen, synchronicities multiply. The old self no longer fits. But the window is finite. Think of solar eclipses. They don't last hours. They open a portal, alter the field, then close. Right now, the morphic resonance of collective awakening is aligning with your personal readiness. Billions of small awakenings across the planet are amplifying one another like tuning forks. That collective resonance has created a harmonic field strong enough to support your collapse of the loop. To miss this window is not failure, but delay. Delay means orbiting the loop again until critical mass reassembles. It could take years, even lifetimes. That's why urgency is not fear, it's physics. You've felt it in flashes already. Those rare hours when you moved through the world with inexplicable confidence. When conversations unfolded like choreography, when you knew what to say without rehearsing, when even your body seemed lighter, humming with purpose. Those were precursors, preview states of your upgraded DNA firing. The field allowed you a taste to anchor your faith, but the full activation requires choice, conscious, embodied, repeated. This is the breakthrough promise. If you choose coherence now, your DNA will stabilize at a frequency that makes the extraordinary ordinary. Here's what that looks like in lived reality. Opportunities that once took months to engineer appear in days. People you never imagined meeting cross your path as if scripted. Creativity bursts flow through you faster than you can capture them. Obstacles dissolve not because the world becomes easy, but because your perception reorganizes. What looked like walls are revealed as doors. Even your sense of time alters. Hours expand when you need space. Days contract when momentum accelerates. You become a co-architect of temporal experience. But I need you to understand the other side too. When the window opens, the old loop resists collapse. It will throw its loudest signals, replay its heaviest scripts, summon its most convincing illusions. Expect it. The argument that feels like the last straw, the bill that arrives at the worst moment, the surge of doubt, just as clarity dawns. These are not proof you're failing. They are proof the loop knows it's dying. The louder the static, the closer the broadcast. This is why timing is sacred. If you wait until everything is calm, you'll miss the portal. The collapse always happens in turbulence. Ships don't cross oceans on still water. They harness the wind. Your DNA shift is asking you to do the same, to stand in the storm, feel the tremor, and declare, "This is the moment." That declaration is not rhetoric. It is a vibrational code your cells will obey. And once the code is obeyed, the breakthrough ripples. Think of popcorn in oil. The first kernel explodes, then the cascade accelerates until the pan overflows. Your DNA is that first kernel. When it pops, the entire field rearranges. Family dynamics shift, friendships recalibrate, entire lineages heal by resonance. You don't need to control it. You couldn't if you tried. You only need to ignite your kernel and trust the cascade. You may wonder, but what if I'm not ready? Hear this. Readiness is not comfort. Readiness is willingness. If you're trembling, doubting, second-guessing, but still listening, still leaning toward coherence, you are ready. The universe doesn't demand perfection. It demands presence. Your breath right now, your choice in this moment, your willingness to believe in possibility over memory, that's enough. The rest, the field supplies. So pause, inhale slowly. Let your awareness sink into your chest. Imagine your DNA not as a hidden code buried in flesh, but as luminous strands of light stretching into infinity. See them vibrating, pulsing, hungry for resonance. Whisper to them not in words but in intention. I allow the shift. That permission is the ignition key. Because here's the truth, pulsing through this moment. The cosmic window is open, and it will not remain so forever. The observer loop is weakening. The parallel timelines are leaning toward merger. Your DNA is listening for command. The only missing piece is your conscious choice. Stay with me, because in the next movement, I'll show you how to seal this shift. Not in abstract thought, but in tangible ritual action, a gesture so simple yet so potent, it reverberates through the quantum field as an irreversible decree. This is where theory becomes sacrament. You've heard the mechanics, you've felt the pressure. Now you must do the simplest thing with the deepest intention. Make a mark, not a grand plan, not a spreadsheet, one clear, coherent signal the field can read without ambiguity. In this lab of being, the body needs an instruction it can obey. Ritual gives the body that instruction. Begin by settling. Sit or stand with your spine tall. Put both feet flat on the earth. Feel the weight and the contact. Breathe 3 slow, full breaths. Inhale through the nose for a count of 4, hold for 2, exhale through the mouth for 6. With each exhale, imagine the old loop loosening around your shoulders. With each inhale, imagine a new, luminous string of coherence threading through your spine from root to crown. This breath is not relaxation alone, it is calibration. Now place your right hand over your heart. Feel the pulse there. Let the palm speak the first language your cells still understand: touch. Touch is a permission code. Let your hand be the envoy between your conscious choice and the body's memory. Say to yourself, aloud or in silence, a short sentence that seals your intention. You can use what has been given earlier, or choose a single word that lands in your chest like a bolt. I am ready to receive. Coherence. Receive. Now. Awaken. Pick one. Feel it. Taste the syllables in your nervous system. This is not social theater, it is a biochemical instruction. Your nervous system registers language as literal input. When you speak the word and place your body in alignment, you're sending a packet of coherent signal into the quantum field. The next step is small and public, which matters. Public acts anchor private states. Slowly move your fingers to your device. In the comment box below this transmission, type the single word you just chose. Don't hurry. Type it as if your fingertips are pressing a key into the fabric of reality. As you type, visualize each letter, lighting the strands of your DNA like fiber optic filaments. Bright, steady, tune, press, send. That act, simple, physical, precise, is a decisive observer action. It collapses ambiguity. It tells the field, here is the frequency I choose. If you want a fuller declaration, type the earlier phrase, I am ready to receive what's already mine. Either way, keep it concise. The quantum field doesn't need long explanations. It listens to clarity, brevity, and conviction. Comments are more than signals to other humans. They are anchors for your nervous system and soundings for the morphic field. Some people will see your word and feel a shift they can't name. Some will scroll past. Don't measure effect by likes or replies. Measure effect by the steadiness in your chest after you send it. That steadiness, that quiet yes, is the only proof you need. After you post, complete the ritual arc. Place both hands flat on your knees. Breathe 4 cycles of the same slow breath. Imagine the word you sent expanding outward like ripples from a stone dropped into a calm pond. Picture those ripples intersecting with other ripples across the collective field, amplifying coherence where it meets. Say a short closing, so it is, or let it be done, or whatever small phrase feels true. Finish by drinking a glass of water. Hydration helps biology translate intention into protein folding. It's literal. Water carries electromagnetic patterns through your body. Now, maintain. Ritual is not a one-off magic trick. It's the first note in a new song. For the next 48 hours, practice 3 micro anchors. 1. Morning. For 2 minutes, stand, hands on heart. Repeat your words silently while breathing fully. 2. Midday. When you eat or drink, touch your plate or cup and whisper the word once, an embodied reminder. 3. Evening. Journal 2 lines about any small alignment you noticed that day, however insignificant. Gratitude stabilizes coherence. Expect the loop to resist. Old patterns might flare. Sudden doubts. A text that triggers the old story. A memory arriving like fog. When that happens, return to the ritual posture. Feel the hand on the heart. Breathe. Repeat the word. This is not failure. It is feedback. The nervous system works in iterations. Each repetition deepens the groove of the new frequency. A quick, practical note. Do not weaponize performance metrics. The field doesn't care about virality. It cares about authenticity. Comment because you mean it, not because you seek validation. The most potent offerings are those made from emptiness, free of expectation, because emptiness is the vacuum where virtual possibilities stabilize. Commit the act to intention, then release. Let the field do its work. Finally, be accountable to feeling, not to proof. If, after the ritual, your chest feels softer, if you sleep differently, if a coincidence arrives that brightens your day, those are the early blips of phase transition. If nothing seems to change externally within hours, stay with the practice. The tide can take time to return. The ritual's work is real even when unseen. You have now performed the smallest, most irreversible act. You chose coherently and told the field in a language your biology recognizes. That choice ripples. It sets conditions for your DNA to reorganize, for timelines to thicken toward the one you named. Keep the cadence, keep the attention, keep returning to the body. In the next movement, we enlarge your victory, how your singular shift becomes a lever for collective healing. This is where your role as chosen consciousness multiplies. Your ripple becomes a wave. When you perform the ritual, when you press that single word into the field, you are not acting alone. You are slipping a new frequency into the collective weave. Imagine a vast tapestry where each thread is a life, and your thread, when tightened, alters the tension of the whole cloth. Your coherence doesn't stay private, it propagates. It hums through morphic resonance like a bell struck in one valley whose sound carries into another. What you stabilize in yourself becomes available to others as possibility, not persuasion. You've felt this before in small ways. The room breathing easier when you enter, a friend who seems suddenly calmer after you talk, a stranger who looks like they remembered something important because you walked by. Those aren't coincidences, they're field effects. Your shift creates local pockets of order, which then interact with other pockets. When enough pockets align, the result is not merely better lives for individuals, it is a collective phase transition. Whole communities reconfigure. Systems that once resisted coherence begin to lean toward it. Think of it as a seismic event of consciousness. A single conscious decision repeated, embodied, anchored in ritual, lowers the threshold for others. You become a living template. People don't need your explanations. They need the felt possibility that a different life is real and sustainable. When they sense you living it, something inside them remembers a pattern they had buried, their own capacity to choose, to collapse their loops, to write another script. This remembering is contagiously benign. It spreads through meetings, meals, and mundane interactions in ways you can't predict. Your liberation operates on several axes. First, there's the immediate field around you. Family, friends, co-workers. These people are entangled with your emotional rhythms. When your frequency stabilizes, their emotional systems can resynchronize to a new baseline. Arguments soften, blame loosens, empathy becomes easier. The patterns that used to trigger repetitive fights now meet a different energetic answer: steadiness. That steadiness reorganizes behavior, because behavior responds to field cues before it responds to logic. People mimic what feels safe and coherent. You become that pattern. Second, there's the extended morphic layer, cultural narratives, inherited trauma loops, ancestral expectations. Your choice reverberates across those layers. When you break a lineage pattern, refusing the default of scarcity, choosing forgiveness, establishing new boundaries, you don't just change your life. You change the options available to those who follow. Imagine a child in your family 3 generations from now, living a life that would have been impossible without the new groove you carved. That child's field is already influenced by your coherence. Your courage rearranges the energy long before a name is given. Third, there's the planetary network, the invisible lattice woven by millions of shifting frequencies. Each coherent person acts like a node that improves signal strength for the entire net. You might be surprised which nodes matter most. Not the loudest voices, but the steady ones. Quiet consistency multiplies. 1,000 people holding small, resolute practices create an emergent field that supports larger structural change. This is how movements begin, not with manifestos, but with embodied practice. Your ritual isn't solitary. It's proto-movement building through fidelity. You may worry about scale. How could my small act possibly move the planet? Remember the physics of tipping points. Systems obey thresholds. A single pebble can start an avalanche if dropped in the right place. Your act is a pebble placed precisely, intentionally, with awareness of the system's weaknesses. Because you are a chosen consciousness, your pebble doesn't fall randomly. It lands where the structure has been thinned by prior awakenings and where your field's resonance is most likely to couple with others. The synergy is non-linear. Sometimes a tiny input produces huge reconfiguration. There's also a moral alchemy in your transformation. When you become coherent, you no longer contribute to the chaos you once amplified unconsciously. Think of all the nights spent radiating fear, envy, or scarcity into the field. Those emissions create friction. Each time you choose differently, you remove friction from the collective machine. You are not only adding light, you are reducing noise. That subtraction is as essential as any addition. Less noise means clearer signal. Clearer signal means more effective entrainment for others. And the beauty is, you don't have to evangelize. Your work is not to convince, but to be. The field responds to beingness more than argument. When you embody a life where synchronicity is normal and courage is habitual, others tune in because the option to be otherwise becomes credible. They don't adopt your beliefs so much as remember their own. That remembering is the truest form of freedom. It's not given, it's recognized. There will be resistance. Systems that profit from scarcity and fragmentation will react. Old structures will attempt to reassert themselves through fear, distraction, and polarization. That's expected. Your liberation won't immediately dismantle referential power, but it will create niches of coherence, safe harbors, where alternative ways of being can grow until they become the new norm. Your ripple outlasts the noise because coherent fields are self-stabilizing. They feed themselves with small, daily practices and therefore persist. Your role in this collective expansion is humane and humble. You are not the savior parading answers. You are the example holding the possibility steady until others can step into it. You offer permission simply by existing in that frequency. You model what harmony looks like when lived, and in modeling, you free. That freedom compounds. It moves through relationships, across city blocks, into institutions, and down into the cellular memory of future generations. So, tend your coherence as a public good. Keep your rituals. Maintain your micro-anchors. Befriend solitude and community both, because both are necessary. Solitude for calibration, community for transmission. Celebrate small alignments. Someone's softened heart, an unexpected door opening, a pattern that finally reverses. Those are the bricks of systemic change. Remember, worlds do not shift primarily because of strategies or slogans. They shift because enough humans consistently embody a higher possibility. You are one of those humans. Your willingness to collapse your loop and stand in the field with steady intention levers entire realities. In the next movement, we descend into sensation, the felt life of your new frequency. We'll map the physical metaphors, the bodily signatures, the precise somatic markers that show you the upgrade is real. Keep your hands warm. The field is listening. You are not a theory. You are a body with thresholds, registers, and textures that remember. If the upgrade is real, it will not only be a shift in your calendar or bank balance, it will rearrange the interior geography of your tissues. Pay close attention to these impressions. They are the proof in the flesh. First, the breath. Notice how it changes when coherence wins. It lengthens like sunlight sliding across a still lake, slow, luminous, widening the horizon inside your ribs. Where once you took shallow, urgent sips of air, you now drink in long, easy tides. That breath is a compass. When it becomes steady, your autonomic nervous system retunes from fight, divided by flight, to a field of availability. You can feel the difference in the small muscles under your collarbones loosening, the sternum opening like a flower accepting light. That opening is literal. More oxygen, yes, but also more capacity for nuance, intuition, patience, and creative appetite. Second, the chest. At first, the heart's rhythm may feel erratic, the old loop protesting. Then, as coherence accumulates, your heartbeat settles into a deeper cadence, less boom and more ocean. You will notice micropauses that feel like punctuation marks between beats. Those pauses are where the field writes new code. You may experience warmth spreading across the sternum, a vivid aliveness that tastes like copper and possibility. This is not metaphor. The heart's electromagnetic field expands and communicates with cells nearby and far away. Your internal radio is broadcasting a new station. Third, the skin and the peripheral nervous system. Expect gooseflesh that isn't fear but recognition, your body remembering a frequency it once knew. Tiny electric shivers along the forearms, a tingling at the nape of your neck, a low hum behind your ears. These are the sensors of entanglement waking up. They tell you when a field aligns and when it does not. When you pass through a room and someone else has already stabilized their tone, you'll feel a pleasant consonance, like two tuning forks overlapping. When you walk into a space thick with discord, the skin tightens, a warning light calibrated by ancestral memory. Learn these textures. They're your interior radar. Fourth, the pelvis and belly where permission lives. There will be a softening here, a loosening of old clamps. When you choose coherence, the muscles that once braced you against disappointment begin to release. Notice how digestion shifts. Food moves with less resistance. Appetite normalizes. There's less clutching for safety through consumption. The belly becomes a reservoir for generated trust. When you place attention in this region, hands on the belly, slow breath, you are not indulging in sentimentality. You are sending a clear somatic memo. The system is safe to expand. Fifth, the eyes and vision. As your frequency stabilizes, color deepens. Not metaphorical color, the literal saturation of light around objects becomes more pronounced. Contrast sharpens. Small details that once blurred into noise now pop with meaning. Peripheral vision widens. You catch cues others miss. This is because coherence changes the way your brain filters input, privileging patterns that serve alignment. You will literally see more pathways. The world grows as your field does. Sixth, sleep and dreaming. You will notice shifts in the architecture of rest. Sleep deepens. Dreams become denser, with signals, meetings with your parallel selves, fragments of future roots, clear instructions delivered in surreal logic. Instead of fragmented, forgettable dreams, you'll receive sequences that carry advice, emotional calibration, and rehearsal for decisions you will soon make. Keep a dream journal. The morphic field uses nocturnal states to stitch future timelines into your waking life. Recording them makes the stitching conscious. Seventh, Energy distribution. Coherence does not mean manic productivity. It means redistributed energy, less wasted on anxiety loops, more available for creative expression and repair. You'll discover pockets of effortless focus where work flows like a river. You'll also notice pauses that are deep replenishment, not procrastination. Honor both. Your system is learning to move in waves rather than spasms. Eighth, relational resonance. When you sustain the new frequency, interactions change in taste. Conversations deepen faster. Silences hold less dread and more communion. People show their true edges sooner. Some will recede, unable to match the field. Others will step forward, magnetized by the possibility you embody. This is not judgment, it's calibration. Your body will notice this shift as weight redistribution, less heaviness after exchanges that previously left you depleted, more buoyancy and presence that used to drain you. Finally, the subtle signature, a persistent sense of rightness, a low, grateful hum that underlays waking life. It's not dramatic. It is the quiet authority of a system that remembers how to collaborate with the quantum field. It registers as a subtle straightening of posture, a small widening at the eye's corners, a reduced need for justification. This hum is the baseline of your new operating system. These sensations are not instructions to chase ecstatic states. They are locators, GPS coordinates, showing that your field is shifting. When you notice them, acknowledge them with gratitude, map them in a notebook, practice body checks twice a day. Ask, where is the breath? Is the belly soft? Is the chest warm? What color feels brighter? What dream returned to me this morning? These small audits create evidence and reinforce coherence. Remember, sensation precedes narrative. The body will tell you the truth before the mind constructs an explanation. Trust the signals. They are the sacrament of your upgrade, the visible, tactile proof that timelines are merging and your desired reality is installing itself into the hardware of your being. In the next movement, we will go further into the biological rupture, how your DNA truly reorganizes, and what the timeline shift feels like at the cellular level. Stay tender. Your cells are listening. The moment of cellular reconfiguration is not dramatic in the way movies make it, no sudden lightning bolt, no cinematic explosion, yet it is the most catastrophic reordering you will ever experience. Quietly absolute, rearranging the scaffolding of who you thought you were. Your DNA doesn't flip like a switch. It shifts like a living architecture breathing into a new blueprint. Imagine a cathedral rewiring itself from inside. Stones slide, windows resize, the stained glass rearranges into images you've always known but never seen. That is your genome aligning to a new frequency. Let's be precise. Each cell in your body is an antenna. Telomeres, histones, methyl groups. These are not inert ornaments but dynamic modulators. Under the pressure of coherent field input, methylation patterns soften or harden. Histone configurations open new reading frames. Telomeres, those protective caps, change their pacing. This is not metaphysical poetry, it's biochemical choreography. Your epigenome listens to your field, and when you sustain a high coherence state, genes that coded for limitation step back, while those coded for expansion step forward. The architecture of expression rebalances. You might experience this as a crescendo of pressure. It feels like a tightening at the base of the skull, a furnace in the chest, a low, sustained hum across your limbs. The body translates reorganization into sensation because it is making room, removing molecular furniture that no longer fits the new floor plan. That pressure is not a problem to fix, it's the signal of construction. Breathe into it. Think of that hum as a metronome marking every micro-realignment. With each inhale, you invite integration. With each exhale, you release the old scaffolding. At the level of timeline physics, this is the signature of decoherence giving way to recoherence. Remember earlier how decoherence collapses superpositions into limited states when bombarded by noise. Now, reverse it. Your sustained coherent input reduces environmental decoherence so that the probability amplitudes of desired timelines become dominant. Parallel branches that were faint begin to thicken. Paths that once blurred now acquire gravitational pull. The phase transition you experience is the field reallocating probability mass toward the reality you've consistently signaled. Expect anomalies. Your calendar may rearrange without your conscious planning. Conversations pivot with uncanny relevance. Missed trains become providential delays that place you where you need to be. Equally, old patterns may flail. Relationships that defined you may melt away or sharpen into the forms that match your new resonance. These are not punishments, they are pruning. The system clears incompatible nodes so the new network can stabilize. Honor the grief. Grief is the soul's compost for fertile growth. Allow it, then plant. On a cognitive level, you'll notice a sudden pruning of indecision. Choices that once looped endlessly now collapse into crisp clarity. That clarity is not arrogance. It's the result of fewer competing probabilities. Decision-making becomes local and immediate because your field no longer supports noisy alternatives. There's a current under your intentions now. Choices carry weight and pull. Move with it. Act decisively, not from compulsion, but from the economy of coherence. Minimal energy for maximal alignment. Biologically, it's common to experience energetic surges, brief windows of heightened creativity, sexual charge, or boldness followed by deep integration periods where you feel depleted. This is normal. The system expends energy to rewire and then needs rest to fold those changes into stable hardware. Treat these cycles like lab cycles, active intervention followed by incubation. Sleep deeply after surges. Nourish with whole foods, simple movement, and intentional breathwork. Your cells are metabolically busy. Support them. You may also encounter what feels like temporal bleeding memories from alternate selves leaking into waking life. A phrase you never learned, a skill that seems to arrive fully formed, a sensation of having already passed through an event you're about to enter. These are not psychosis, they are entanglement signatures. Your expanded timelines are communicating backward and forward to ensure smooth integration. Keep a log. When the future you sends a breadcrumb, track it. Patterns will emerge that confirm the directional pull of your new lifeline. Spiritually, the DNA breakthrough often brings an embodied sense of ancestry reclaiming itself. There may be dreams of elders, sudden ancestral names rising into awareness, or an impulse to repair lineage dynamics. This is the field repairing inherited ruptures. When your genome reorganizes, it doesn't act in isolation. It shifts the morphic field of those connected to you. Your work now includes tenderness toward lineage, a willingness to forgive, to alter patterns, to model different possibilities for your descendants. A sharp caution: breakthroughs attract tests. Systems will prod the new balance to gauge stability. Financial stresses, relational friction, health niggles, they surface not to derail you but to test whether your coherence is durable under pressure. Respond with the protocols you've practiced: ritual anchors, breath, public declaration of the word you chose, hydration, and rest. Each test you pass is proof the new configuration can withstand environmental stress and thus will persist. Finally, witness the emergent capacities, subtle telepathy of intent across distances, a deeper, almost tactile empathy with the non-local field, creative downloads that arrive as fully formed ideas, a sense of time reframing where future outcomes carry backward informing momentum. These are the perks of a retuned genome aligned to higher-order coherence. Use them responsibly. Remember, power without discipline fractures. Ground your gifts in service, not spectacle. You are not returning to the person you were. You are becoming a node of stabilized coherence, one who can now move through life with reduced drag and increased elegance. The timeline you selected in your ritual is thickening. The field is clearing corridors for it. Honor the biology. Tend your body as the sacred vessel through which this new reality will be lived. In the next and final movement, you will step into mission, the cosmic close, where your personal shift ties into the destiny of humanity, and the last prophetic line of this transmission will land. Stay present. The merger is nearly complete. You have traveled the loop, read the map etched into your cells, and enacted the small ritual that tells the field you are serious. Now the work becomes both quieter and louder, the quiet of steady presence, the loudness of a life that simply lives differently enough to reorient everyone who meets it. This is your commission, to live as proof that a human being can align their breath, their body, and their attention with a frequency that reconfigures probability. This is not vanity, it is vocation. Remember the beloved paradox. The most effective force in the universe is a steady, non-reactive heart. The apocalypse of patterns you carried does not need theatrical demolition. It needs your ordinary fidelity. Make your morning breath a covenant. Make your meal a sacrament. Make your conversations small laboratories of coherence. In these unglamorous repetitions, the new world anchors. You are not summoned to spectacle, you are summoned to fidelity. The planet does not transform because of brilliant strategies alone. It reconfigures because enough people choose new daily habits that harmonize the field. You are one of those people now. Your mission unfolds in 3 simple but profound actions. First, keep the interior lit. Guard your field against habitual noise. Continue the micro-anchors, the hand on the heart, the chosen word, the breath that lengthens the spine. These are low-voltage commitments that maintain high-voltage effects. Second, move with moral clarity. When systems tempt you back into old compensations, fear-based bargaining, cheap reactivity, decline with compassion for yourself and resolve for the future. Third, pass on the method, not the dogma. Teach people how to notice their breath, how to tend their body, how to issue one clear signal to the field. Give them the tools to collapse their own loop. You are a midwife for timelines. You will meet resistance. Corporations, ideologies, even intimate relationships will test your new coherence because change destabilizes accustomed exchange. Some will bless you, others will try to recruit you back into old economies. Hold steadiness. Your greatest act of service is to embody the new possibility without shame or self-justification. Presence itself is argument enough. People will watch your life and, through a silent contagion, remember their own capacity to choose differently. That is how culture shifts, not in megaphones but in the slow accumulation of lived examples. Do not measure your success by headlines. Measure it by the subtle evidence. A friend who sleeps better, a child who smiles with curious wonder, a family dinner where blame is absent for the first time. These are the microseismic events that preface tectonic cultural change. Your fidelity multiplies through webs you cannot yet see. The morphic field tallies these repetitions and, over time, reweaves expectation. What was once improbable becomes probable, then normal. Finally, know this with certainty. Your personal evolution is not an isolated hero's arc. It is a lever. When you maintain coherence, you shorten the gap between human possibility and human reality. You are not only shifting your own timeline, you are drawing the collective toward a higher attractor. The planet is thirsty for people who will hold steady in love, clarity, and creative courage. Be that reservoir. Stand now in the place you were always meant to occupy. Quiet, luminous, unafraid. Let your breath be steady. Let your word be true. Let your body be a broadcast that the field cannot ignore. And when you do, when you hold the collapse with tenderness and resolve, watch how the world rearranges itself around that single, coherent frequency. Once you collapse the observer loop, parallel timelines merge and your desired reality unlocks instantly.